Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca Alvarado and I'm a graduate assistant with the TAMIU Advancing Research and Curriculum, or ARC. Today we will discuss the top 6 most common grammar errors students make in their writing and how they can be fixed. Before we get started, a quick disclaimer. This is not an exhaustive list of every possible writing error and is only meant to be used for information purposes. In addition, not every error is easy to identify. As we'll discover with time, there are many ways to create an error in writing, and not every error has its own name. Oftentimes, you'll see that there are many ways to identify and fix any given error, and such fixes will depend on the needs of the situation. So, it's important to be flexible in your approach to fixing errors. Again, remember that errors are natural, and that everyone, even experienced and professional writers, are prone to them. In addition, know that no writing error, or any error for that matter, defines you. Quote-unquote bad writing does not come from making errors. This guide will cover the following list of common grammatical errors, how to identify them, and how to correct them. This guide will focus on 2 categories of grammatical errors, sentence errors and verb forms. Under the category of sentence errors, we will discuss run-on sentences, fragments, and comma splices. Under the category of verb errors, we will discuss subject-verb agreement errors, verb tense errors, and split infinitives. First, we'll discuss run-on sentences. A run-on sentence may consist of more than 2 independent clauses together, creating an error, or it may consist of independent clauses that are improperly joined. To identify run-on sentences in your writing, ask yourselves the following questions. Which parts are the subject and verb? Is there more than one subject-verb pair? Does this sentence seem overly long? Does it express many complete ideas? Does it use a pronoun like it or they as a subject of one of the independent clauses? Does it have a fanboys coordinating conjunction? Is it missing a comma? If you answered yes to any of these questions, your sentence could be a run-on sentence. An example of a run-on sentence with improperly joined independent clauses is, I went to work, it was good. I went to work is one independent clause. It was good is another independent clause. These independent clauses are improperly joined and will require either a coordinating conjunction and a comma, a semicolon, or a period between them. Now let's practice. Identify whether the following sentences are run-ons or complete sentences. She is a university student. She is a math major. Although our flight to Washington got canceled, we were still able to make it on time to my sister's wedding. My dogs, Marshy and Kaiser, are so fun to be around. I love them dearly. Because Amanda was late to class, she had to sit in the only available seats in the back of the class. Feel free to pause the video at this time to work on these examples. The first example is a run-on sentence because there are 2 independent clauses that are improperly joined. These can be joined using a comma and a coordinating conjunction, a period, or a semicolon between them. In this case, we use a semicolon because the 2 independent clauses were closely related to each other. The second example is a complete sentence. It contains an independent clause connected to a dependent clause and uses proper grammar and mechanics. The third example is also considered a run-on sentence. One possible fix is, my dogs, Marshy and Kaiser, are so fun to be around. Period. I love them dearly. Notice how the 2 improperly joined independent clauses were joined by a period. Note that this was only one of the many ways to fix this error. The final example is a complete sentence because it contains 2 properly joined independent clauses. Now let's move on to comma splices. Comma splices are similar to run-on sentences. Comma splices occur when compound and compound complex sentences are improperly joined using a comma, where either a comma and a coordinating conjunction or a semicolon is needed. To identify comma splices in your writing, ask yourself these questions. Does this sentence have more than one subject-verb pair and express 2 complete thoughts? Does this sentence have both a coordinating conjunction, fanboys, and a comma? Does it use a pronoun like it or they as a subject of one of the independent clauses? Does this sentence have a comma but no coordinating conjunction, or instead have a subordinating conjunction like however, although, whereas, etc.? Can you split off more than two parts of the sentence and read them as complete thoughts? If you answered yes to any of these questions, your sentence could contain a comma splice or comma splices. Take a look at this example of a sentence containing a comma splice. I walked to the store, comma, I saw a dog. This sentence contains a comma with no coordinating conjunction and thus creates an error. One possible fix for this could be I walked to the store, comma, and I saw a dog. Another possible fix for this could be I walked to the store, semicolon, I saw a dog. Similar to how you fix a run-on sentence, you can fix a comma splice by replacing the comma with a period or semicolon, or by adding a coordinating conjunction after the comma. Now let's practice identifying and correcting comma splices within sentences. In the following examples, identify whether the sentences contain comma splices or are complete sentences. I traveled to New York. The streets were crowded with people. Everywhere she turned, people were staring at her in awe. If you are ever considering coffee from Berg's Bakery, I highly recommend trying their iced latte. George thinks Sam is fun to be around. I think Sam just has an amiable personality. You may pause the video at this time to work on these examples. The first example contains a comma splice because the comma is incorrectly joining two independent clauses. One possible fix for this is I traveled to New York, comma, and the streets were crowded with people. Notice how the comma splice was corrected by adding a coordinating conjunction, in this case and, next to the comma. Note that this sentence could also have been corrected with a semicolon or a period. The second example is considered a complete sentence. Here the comma is used to correctly separate a dependent clause from an independent clause. The third example is considered a complete sentence as well. The two independent clauses here are correctly separated by a semicolon. Note that there are other ways this sentence could have been structured to be considered correct. The final example is considered a comma splice. One possible fix is George thinks Sam is fun to be around, semicolon, I think Sam just has an amiable personality. This semicolon correctly joins the independent clauses which are related to one another. Now let's discuss sentence fragments. Fragments are incomplete sentences that do not express a complete thought. They might be a result of a dependent clause that was mistakenly split from a sentence that it was attached to, or it might be a phrase that was left incomplete for whatever reason. To identify sentence fragments, ask yourself the following questions of your sentence. Does it express a complete thought? Can you identify both a subject and a verb within it? Is it suspiciously short? Does it begin with a conjunctive adverb or subordinating conjunction, like however, although, moreover, whereas, etc.? Does it begin with a participle form of verb, such as walking, talking, walked, talked, or other verbs that end in ed or ing? You may use these questions to gauge whether you have a fragmented sentence or not. Some examples of sentence fragments include the following: walking to the store, the King of France, depending on who you ask, as opposed to the alternative, always on time, frolic through the woods. The most common fix for sentence fragments is to find a nearby sentence to combine it with. Just keep in mind that if you did combine the fragment with a nearby sentence, you would need to build a proper independent clause using its existing parts. Now let's practice. Identify whether the following are fragments or complete sentences. When we boarded the school bus every morning. Refusing to eat any type of milk unless the packaging says it's lactose-free. I walked. 2 out of the 5 group members broke the silence at once. You may pause the video at this time to work on these examples. The first example is a fragment. The fragment seems to be a dependent clause missing an independent clause. One possible fix could be, when we boarded the school bus every morning, I tended to sit in the back row. Notice how this sentence fragment was fixed by building an independent clause to combine with. This next example is also considered a fragment. The verb refusing is missing a subject. One possible fix for this is she is refusing to eat any type of milk unless the packaging says it's lactose-free. Notice how the sentence fragment was corrected by identifying the subject, she. Take a look at the next example, I walked. Despite being suspiciously short, this is considered a complete sentence because it contains a complete subject-verb pair and expresses a complete thought. The final example is also considered a complete sentence because it contains a single independent clause that expresses a complete thought. Now let's take a look at another common writing error, verbs, particularly subject-verb agreement. Subject-verb agreement errors may happen when a subject either contains a mismatched singular or pluralization use. To identify subject-verb agreement errors, ask yourself the following questions. Is my subject singular or plural? Do I have multiple subjects in a given sentence? Compound subject. Is my verb singular or plural? Do I have multiple verbs in a given sentence? Compound predicate. Can I pluralize or singularize the subject or noun? An example of a pluralization error is as follows. The dogs chases the cat. One possible fix for this is the dog chases the cat, or the dogs chase the cat. Notice how in the first example, if the noun dog is singular, the verb chases is plural. Or as with the second example, if the noun is plural, the verb becomes singular. This is the beauty of subject-verb agreement. Now let's practice. Correct the subject-verb agreement in the following sentences. Fish should not be fed too much to preventing overfeeding. Many people will see Malfoy around campus, but not many people take the time to meet him. Allow me to introduce my best friend Sarah. Emmy and Emma likes their new house. You may pause the video at this time to work on these examples. In the first example, preventing should be prevent. In the second example, meets should be meet. In the third example, introduces should be introduce. In the fourth example, likes should be like. Notice how each of these sentences were corrected to the proper singular or plural form. Another common writing error is verb tense shifts. These errors occur when multiple tenses are used in a single sentence, paragraph, or narrative. Although shifts in tense are not always incorrect, since various tenses may be required to properly describe a specific event or idea, tense shifts errors most frequently occur when writers are not paying attention to the consistency of their tenses. To identify tense shifts in your writing, ask yourself the following questions. What tense is this sentence meant to convey? What verbs are present? If there are multiple verbs in this sentence, do they match tense with each other? Do each of my sentences match tense with other sentences in the same paragraph? Have I indicated to my audience that I intend to shift tenses? An example of a tense shift error is, I climbed down the tree and walked into the woods. This can be fixed by modifying the tense of either verb so that they are the same. I climbed down the tree and walked into the woods. Notice how walk became walked to agree with the past tense climbed. Climbed could also have been modified to agree with the past tense walk. The main thing to note is that they are now the same tense. Now let's practice. Identify the incorrect tense shifts in the following sentences. Mark thought his friends are watching Captain America, but they decide to re-watch Avengers. I walked into the gas station and the line will be too long. Every day is a new opportunity to try something new. Tomatoes look like they could be vegetables, but they are considered fruits. You may pause the video at this time to work on these examples. In the first example, the present tense are became the past tense were, and the present tense decide became the past tense decided to agree with the past tense thought. In the second example, the future tense will be became the past tense was to agree with the past tense walked. In the third example, the past tense tried became the present tense try to agree with the present tense is. In the fourth example, the present tense consider became the past tense considered. This was derived from the context of the sentence, which suggests a past action. Another common error in writing that also deals with verbs is split infinitives. Remember that split infinitives are verb forms that use to in front of them. The split infinitive error occurs when additional words come in between to and the infinitive. This extra word is often a prepositional phrase or an adverb, although in informal settings, split infinitives with adverbs can often slide. If you have the word to followed by a word ending in ly, double check your sentence. An example of an error of a split infinitive with an adverb is, I need to quickly check my schedule. This could be fixed by placing the adverb at the end so that the sentence reads, I need to check my schedule quickly. Identify and correct the following split infinitive errors. I use a duster and a dustpan to swiftly eliminate dust. My friends every day of the week invite me to their dorm rooms. Sammy decided to, despite being advised otherwise, accept the sketchy job offer. My name is Victoria, but feel free to anyway call me Tori. You may pause the video at this time to work on these examples. In the first example, the adverb swiftly was moved to the end of the sentence to remove the additional words between to and the infinitive. Therefore, one possible fix would read, I used a duster and a dustpan to eliminate dust swiftly. In the second example, every day of the week separates the to from the infinitive. Therefore, one possible fix could read, my friends invite me to their dorm rooms every day of the week. In the next example, despite being advised otherwise, are the additional words between to and the infinitive. When these words are placed at the end of the sentence, one possible fix could be, Sammy decided to accept the sketchy job offer despite being advised otherwise. In the final example, anyway separates to from the infinitive call, thus creating a split infinitive. One possible fix for this sentence is, my name is Victoria, but feel free to call me Tori anyway. Notice how in most of these examples, the extra words between to and the infinitive were placed at the end of the sentence to correct the sentence. Note that this is only one of the many ways these sentences could be corrected, and the particular structure of your sentence largely depends on its context and specific needs. For more resources to help you improve your writing, keep a lookout for our next guides, More Common Grammar Errors and How to Fix Them, Commas and Clauses Part 1, and Intermediate Grammar Verb Forms. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more.